every time you show up on social media, the chance that you'll be successful is determined by the contents that you put out there. The idea is, see, if you spend a lot of time in making a piece of content, that's already money you've invested.
Yes.
When you put that content on social media and it has 18 views, you've wasted money. Actually, most viral content that we see on social media was by chance, right? But the thing is, you can't build a business on chance. Exposure is 99.9% importance. If someone is not exposed to a product, they can't buy the product.
Yes.
Every business owner needs to be a content creator. It's not about the consistency of posting. It's not about the frequency of posting. It's about the quality of what you're putting out there.
Hello, and welcome to the March edition of our BLM Fireside Chat. I'm so excited to have you on the broadcast today. I'm so sure that the things that you learned from the very last episode have tremendously helped your business to scale, to grow, and to do better. Well, today we have something very fantastic for you. I mean, fantastic. When I say fantastic, fantastic. We have a guest who is someone I respect so much, I love so much, a dear brother of mine, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful individual. When he was in the University of Ibadan, he led a club called the Dunamis Club. And the Dunamis Club was responsible for growing businesses, talking about business issues, challenges, and having such conversations. And I think at that time, from what I heard, he was able to reach about 200 different businesses. I mean, that's remarkable while in the university. After university, he's worked for some very reputable organizations. And one thing you would say is that amongst the 9 unicorns that we have, I heard this from him, I must confess, he's been able to work with about 5 of them. Remarkable individual, I tell you. He's currently the regional partner director, Sub-Saharan Africa, for Aleph Group. His name is Mr. Jesudetan Onasanya. How are you doing, sir?
Dr. Joshua, thank you so much for this. This is such an honor to be here. I'm overwhelmed that you thought of me. I'm just a small boy, like I have to say. But thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
You're welcome. You're welcome, sir. Small boy indeed. Okay. If you say so. All right. So thank you. And it's really great. I'm telling you, really great. I have been looking forward to having this conversation. Of course, we talk personally once in a while when you're very busy. I'm busy too, but I mean, I think this would be a good opportunity to hear a lot of the things that I believe our audience would really learn from. I want to start by asking, who is Jesudetan Onasanya?
Wow, that's a very interesting question, and it's a very deep one as such. When I think about myself, and to be honest, I seldom do this, right? So I'm always thinking for businesses, thinking on how to solve problems. So sometimes you forget to really define who you really are. But if I look at myself just introspectively, I would say, one, I'm a believer. I say this because this powers everything that my belief system, who I am as a person. The second thing I would say is I'm a scientist. I actually studied physics in university.
Really?
Yes.
No.
So I didn't study engineering or law or anything like that. I studied pure physics.
Wow.
So quantum mechanics, all of that, relativity, all of those things.
Interesting.
So I see myself as a scientist. I have friends who are professors who are doing different studies and all of that. So
wow.
So yes, I'm a scientist. I'm also a creative architect.
Okay.
I started my career as a creative, and I'm a solutions provider. If I say that, solutions, always trying to solve problems. So those are the 3 or let me say 4 facets of how I define myself.
Interested.
Yeah.
Interested. I mean, if anybody told me you studied physics, I would argue. I would say maybe computer science or something in that.
Exactly.
And you also mentioned you were a graphics designer at the time.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. I mean, and then you used to film things like this.
Yes. Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes.
Do all of these things, do they help you do what you're doing now better?
Absolutely. So when I was in uni, one of the things that was very tough for me was to decide what I wanted to do in my life. You know, I think every young person would typically face these questions like, what do I want to do? Do I want to be? I mean, you typically will pick what's most popular. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. I mean, half of people decided to do that. Yeah, they are not doing that exactly today. But I also faced that, challenge. And I remember that I told myself that, I would push myself into many angles. The epitome for me was to find yourself, you need to lose yourself. You can't find yourself if you haven't lost yourself. And losing yourself means, throwing yourself at so many things and see what bounces back. You see what I mean? So
Interesting.
So I started to pick up a lot of things. One of the things what was very fascinating for me was the world of graphic design. It was how do you conceptualize something that doesn't exist? Maybe it's in mind form, it's in a thought form, and how do you bring it to life? So from product design to graphic design to conceptualizing businesses and things like that, brand identities and things like that. This was like very fascinating for me. So
Interesting.
It was my entry point into the world of being a creative. I remember then I would, I was a good student in terms of I was going to classes. I wasn't skipping class or anything like that. But I spent a very good amount of time actually just trying to figure it out. I'm self-taught. So back then in University of Ibadan, internet wasn't as predominant as it is today. We usually have like different faculties that have their own Wi-Fi's, and people always transfer the passwords here and there. And I remember I had a few, so I'll just go very early in the morning when the speed is very high, like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., get there and go on YouTube. And we had these apps then that would download YouTube videos so I could watch tutorials, right? On how to design this and that, how to use Photoshop, things like that. So I would wake up very early in the morning, maybe around 2 a.m., and try to design before I go for classes. And even during exams, when I go to the library and I'm sleepy, what keeps me awake is actually designing. So I just bring up my laptop and I start to design. And it really gave me the opportunity to meet a lot of business people. So obviously it was solving a problem for business owners. They wanted to design a business card. They wanted to conceptualize a brand identity. Many small business owners, and this is also like a problem, right? They think that a business is a logo. Right. So every time they come up with a business, the first thing they want is a logo. So they come looking for you. Can you design a logo? Until that logo comes alive, they don't think they have a business. Right.
You're right.
So I was the first person they spoke to, and it was also a very important moment in their business path, because then I started to have conversations with them around what's this business about really? For me to build a logo for you, do a logo for you, I need to understand what it's about. What is the differentiation of your business and things like that, because that helps me to design that identity. So that is sort of how I started.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. I mean that's really good. So I mean, what I'm hearing you say, even though we've not got into the core of the conversation, is, I mean, starting a business would entail you finding something that you do well or you're interested in. Because, I mean, it takes interest to want to sleep in the library. Then you doing that thing wakes you up, right? Yeah. And then building systems and structures around it, as regardless of how minimal or minimal. Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Now, when I went to your LinkedIn profile, right? I mean, we follow each other, but I said, let me just go to LinkedIn profile and just look at it again. And I saw something very interesting. The way you described yourself. And I wrote it down. You said, you're a cross-border market expansion expert. I don't want to assume I know what that means. Tell us, what does that mean?
So this is something that I coined, but obviously exists. It's not like it's an enigma essentially, but something that I coined out of being aspirational. It's not necessarily like this is my job role, where what I do and things like that, but it's more aspirational. And what it really means is, the ability to, move businesses outside of a particular territory and expand into different frontiers.
Wow.
And this is how I came about this. I started to work with a company, one of the very big fintechs in Nigeria, and they had done so well. You can probably guess what company I'm talking about. They've done so well in terms of the number of users. It was very, very massive. The challenge we started to see was, listen, is there any sense in actually continue to do marketing the way we're doing it, right? Is there an headroom for growth, right? So when you look at the impact, let's say, for example, on social media, there are like 20 million people.
Yeah.
If you already have those 20 million people, we already acquired them, what else is left? Maybe they're 25. You can do the headroom, we call it headroom modeling, where you then see that, okay, there's 5 million people more to acquire on this platform, right? But then that started to paint a picture that, okay, does it get to a point where a business actually reaches the pinnacle, right? Where does it stop? And then that bursts the idea of expansion. So you need to expand. Either you diversify, right, into the other industries or streams or things like that, or you expand into a different territory. I find that expanding to a different territory is much easier, because when you're building a business, you need to build for scale. Even if you look at VCs, when VCs are assessing a business, they look at ability for that business to scale. That determines if they want to really, because they want to 3x, 10x their investments, right? So can this idea thrive outside of Nigeria and Kenya? Can it thrive in Uganda? Can it thrive in France? Can it thrive in the US? Things like that. So a lot of business owners don't think beyond their territory. Some of them just think Lagos. When you reach Lagos and you saturated Lagos, where is next? Right. So that's the idea of cross-border, and there's a lot of things that come together before you can expand. You have to understand, how to register, what are the tax implications in that territory, how do you move money, different elements. And I spent a great deal of time working with my legal team, my finance teams, learning from them. It's not my business to work with these guys. I just need something I push to them, but I sit with them. How do you guys come up with this? Why would you do it? Why would this entity contract with this entity? What is the tax implication? How do you do the tax treatment here and there? So I was able to learn a lot from that. And I was like, oh, this is something that I can actually start to help even small business, because small businesses don't have access to this. See, when we wanted to expand to different territories, we would usually consult with like the big fours, right? So we would look at, and obviously there's a lot of money, right? We're about to venture into this. Can you help us do the lay of the land and things like that, right? So I'm like, this is, information that I could share with small businesses, because I'm very passionate about small businesses, right? And that's sort of how that title came about.
Fantastic. Now, you say something very important, right? And as you said it, I started to remember a particular mentor of mine. He would always say that he calls it the test of universality, meaning that if you start a business, you must ask yourself the question that if I take this product to another climate, another country, how would they perceive that product? Would that product be something they'll be willing to part with money to buy? And that once you sit down and you can practically conceive in your mind how you want to position your product such that it can sell anywhere in the world, that you would have raised the bar of excellence, in your particular territory, right? And it's interesting hearing you say, so I'm excited because we're going to be learning a lot from you about how to do this, right? In real terms. So tell me, today we have businesses that people think about an idea. And you hear it always. Oh, think about a need, look for a need, you find a need, build an idea around that need, solve the problem, a business has started. And then people do start businesses, right? And then they begin to struggle. The first challenge they discover is that what the product or the service they want to sell is their friends and their loved ones that will be willing to pay them for it. And then they begin to discover that beyond the logo, they actually need customers, people who are going to pay for their product or service. And then a lot of them turn to social media. Right? They've seen, oh, position, just take pictures, snap, do reels and all of that. And people are doing all of these things, and it seems they are not making progress. Now, you are not only an expert, but you lead a business that you do fantastic stuff around teaching people how to maximize the use of social media to grow their business and to get customers.
Yeah.
In your view, what are the things you think people are doing wrong? And what are the things they can correct?
Very good question. See, I think every business owner, and I learned this from, I think, the second company I worked with, every business owner must have a story. Right? I think we're not China, right? Where it's a copycats, it's a different level when it gets to that. But you see, when you come to an economy like this, you need to have a story. And what does it mean to have a story? It means that you've seen a pain point. And you're passionate about solving that particular pain point, right? It means something personal to you, because you need that sort of level of grit to push through the boundaries of being a business owner. Because being a business owner is a painful process, no matter how easy it is, no matter how needed your product, the demand is, it's a painful process as a business owner, as a small business owner, essentially. So having a story, and you see, you can know if someone has a story, speaking to them for the first 5 minutes, the passion in which they speak, how they think about the problem. Is it personal to them, or are they just trying to make money? If you're trying to make money, you can make money, but you fail a lot. And I think that's one thing. And one of the things that having a story does for you is also it makes you very authentic, right? One of the things that we've seen today on social media is that people are less authentic than they should be, right? There's no soul in what they're doing, right? So someone comes on the internet and says, buy my shoe, buy my clothes. So you're like, please get off my scroll. But someone, comes with a story. You can see the passion in which they speak about it. You can see the pain points. And, that authenticity actually drives the conversation beyond just a surface and beyond content. It deposits something in the heart of the person who is the perception of it. They know when they're buying a product, they're buying something more than just a product. They're part of a vision. You see what I mean? And you see, that's one of the reasons why, for example, TikTok is growing extremely aggressively in these markets, right? And the idea of TikTok is be your most authentic self. It's not, you don't need to do makeup. You don't need to have a polished video. You can have your phone in front of your phone and just say, I'm really passionate about women looking good. I've made this company called Do You Want It Wigs? Something like that. Because one day I went to her interview, and the reason why I got the job is because they just loved my wig. The CEO just loved my wig. She was like, "Where do I get your vendor? Let me have your number." And then because we connected on WhatsApp, she saw my WhatsApp story and saw how passionate I am about doing this. And there has to be a story. It doesn't have to be about that deep. It has to be a story. It has to be something you're passionate about. So I think this is one of the key things that see, the reason why I say this is because every campaign you run, every time you show up on social media, the chance that you'll be successful is determined by the contents that you put out there. 70%, like this data actually shows that 70% of the campaign success is delivered by the creative, by the contents. Right? The content is the experience the user feels when they're on social media. That's their experience. It's not even the product first. They've not tested it. They've not tried it yet. But that content in itself, it does 70% of the job. So if you actually get that right, 70% is already taken care of. The additional 30% can be then, some of the things I'll talk about, which is things like relevance, right? How relevant is what you're doing, what you're saying? Even if you have a product, it needs to be relevant to what's going on. If you're selling something and not infusing Valentine's in it, you're missing out on relevance.
Absolutely.
Right? After now is Ramadan. Right? If you're selling something, you're not conscious. 51% of the population in Nigeria are Muslims. If you're not conscious about the fact that Ramadan is happening and people on social media, your content is not, in that tune,
Yeah.
you're already losing that.
Yeah.
Or 51% of that audience, right? So relevance is very key. Something is trending. You know, there's conversation happening in a country.
Yes.
You need to ride on things like that, right? So
Interesting.
relevance, recency, right, authenticity are key things that business owners must pay attention when they actually show up on social media.
I mean, very, very interesting thought, because I mean, I remember that my wife was telling me about someone who, I mean, she met on social media. The person was selling a pot, right? And my wife decided to buy from this particular person. And I was asking, I said, why this particular person? I mean, you can get a pot from anywhere. I said, besides, the pot might even be more expensive. Right? And they said, no. You needed to see the way this person had a conversation with the pot. I said, wow, okay. You know, and that story is what resonates with the buyer. And then the buyer is willing to part with their money to buy your product. Now, I remember that I think sometime in November, right? You were speaking at a conference, the ABS, the Ascend Business Summit.
Okay.
And one of the things you said was that 60% of businesses are on social media.
Yeah.
Right? However, we are not seeing their presence on social media translate into money in their pockets. You've mentioned a few things that might be wrong, but how can they get it right? I mean, so relevance, recency, and that, beautiful, but are there specific things that they can do? I mean, when I'm putting up my video on Instagram, for example, on Facebook, and all of that, are there specific things? Are there algorithms I should be looking at? Is it just the number of likes? You know, that which is what a lot of people look at. 10 people like my product. You know?
Yeah, so I mean, maybe I should take maybe just 1 minute to explain to people this thing called social media, right?
Yeah.
See, the idea of marketing didn't start with social media. It's always evolved before social media actually came to the fore. We had things called brand marketing, and with social media, you know, and even Google search and things like that, we call direct marketing, right? Which is direct response. And what that means is that direct marketing means measurable marketing. In the past, brand marketing was not measurable. So you could put your ad in a newspaper. You just hoped and prayed that people actually saw it. You would see the sales, but you're not sure exactly which of what you did actually translated that sale, right? So, and even a lot of massive brands face this issue. I speak to them every other week, right? You have a massive campaign, you bring a massive celebrity as your ambassador, you run this campaign, you do all of these things. This is one of my brands here. I don't want to mention their names, but you do all of these things, but you don't know, because at the end of your product is being sold in Mama Suliat's store, right? How did that thing translate to that sale? You see what I mean? You can broadly see the impact in the numbers and the bottom line, but you can't really say this is what I need to tune better. This is what I need to improve on. Oh, this particular video that we posted on this particular day, you know, translated to this. You can't really say that, right? So it's almost like blind marketing, right? With social media came measurable marketing, which means that you can translate almost every single content, right? And you can see the impact of that content to your bottom line if you do it correctly, right? Now, there are two sides of social media. There's what we call the organic side and the paid side. Now, people think about the paid side and like, I don't want to spend money. I just want to post content and expect people to see. Actually, organic content, organic marketing is actually more expensive, right?
Really?
And it doesn't look apparent from that my statement, but the idea is, see, if you spend a lot of time, right, in making a piece of content, right, that's already money you've invested.
Yes.
When you put that content on social media and it has 18 views, you've wasted money, but you don't know it, right? That content hasn't gone far at all. 18, maybe even if number of followers is maybe 20,000. If you hit 18 views, it's failed, right?
Yeah.
So you've already wasted money. that's why I said it's more expensive actually doing what you're doing than actually going paid side. But I'm going to explain. The idea of what the expectation, the ambition of most business owners when they make organic content is they always use this term very loosely. I want it to go viral. Right? They are trying to get virality, right? But virality is very expensive. Again, if you take some lessons around COVID, right? And I think COVID was an example of virus that was engineered, right? So if you look at the medical terms, to engineer a virus is difficult. It takes a lot of R&D. It takes a lot of money to actually engineer it.
Absolutely.
So look at virality. The idea of virality, how do you create a virus? You need to make sure that, the virus this mechanism for transmission, right? The virus needs to have a pathogen or a host that will transfer it, right? And when it gets into the body, the molecular level, the cellular level, it needs to hijack a cell, and then all of that, right? So you need to look at that.
And you studied physics.
But I did a bit of biology anyway. And forgive me if you're a doctor or something. I'm like, what is this guy saying? You've tried to get my point. Anyway, so the idea of the mechanism for a viral transmission is very difficult, painful process. Actually, most viral content that we see on social media was by chance, right? But the thing is, you can't build a business on chance.
Yeah.
If you build a business on chance, you will make money by chance.
True.
And that's why paid marketing is the only, way that you can be sure that your content or your product can get to the right audiences and to the people that you want it to reach, right? Because in marketing, there's something called exposure. Marketing is all about exposure, right? And same thing, virus is about exposure. You have to be exposed to the content.
Yes.
The buying metric for social media is called what we call CPM. It's called cost per mile. That means how much am I going to pay to reach 1,000, to make 1,000 impressions? It could every platform has their cost. It could be $0.27, it could be $0.5, it could be $1, depending on different platforms. When you pay for that content, you are saying, I want to reach 16 million people. Right? This is the cost of reaching those people. You've already solved majority of your problem, which is usually reach. I want to reach people. But you already guaranteed it by paying for that reach. Now, the conversion part of the thing is a different conversation. That's where it comes to the content that you put out there. Right? When you solve the content side of things, right, that's 70% taken care of. Now, let me just break it down into a very mathematical way. Okay. Exposure is 99.9% importance. If someone is not exposed to a product, they can't buy the product.
Yes. True.
So if I was going to say 100%, but let me just say 99.9% is exposure. Now, the remaining 0.1%, I'm going to split it apart. 70% of that 0.1% should be your contents, right? Now, the remaining 30% that completes the 100% curve should be talking about, how you set up your set up your ads, your level of sophistication, understanding the algorithm. Now, I don't want to go too deep into that because this is where people actually worry too much about. Oh, the algorithm. Oh, this and that. That's just 30% of the issues. If you solve reach and you solve content, you will make sale already.
Wow.
If you solve content and you solve reach, you make contents. Now, from statistics, you need to reach at least 50% of your audience, of your target audience, to drive brand equity. What that means is that if my target audience is 5 million people, 5 million people love X food or drink, right?
Yeah.
And for me to drive brand equity, and what is brand equity? Message association, which means that they associate me with this, let's give a popular, how we say, I want to buy Maggie.
Yeah.
What they really mean is give me
exactly,
or something like that. Or I want to buy Indomie.
Yes.
In exchange for noodles. Like what they really want is give me, Dangote or something. You see what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
To really drive brand equity, that means either message association, ad recall, brand equity in any form, you need to reach at least 50% of your audience with your message. If you do not reach at least 50%, it's as good as not doing anything. Right? For me to make an impression on you, right? Or, to to be able to push my message in a way that it moves the needle, right? So let me, for example, on X today, they might be talking about, something trendy about maybe a politician or something like that. If that conversation is within maybe 30 people, it doesn't do it. Nobody cares. It doesn't. No one's aware that anything happened. When it reaches at least 50% of the audience that are interested in that topic, you start to see it on the trend table.
Wow.
So this is a methodology that is very, very, very well understood on the social media front, right? So I think business owners need to pay attention to this. If you show up on social media, like 60% of people that are showing up on social media are not seeing results, are not paying attention to these things. They are posting every day, and they say, "Oh, the more you post, the more." In fact, it worsens, right? Because, like I always say, and I'll just give it 30 seconds to elaborate on this. The most important thing to every platform is user experience, right? Every platform always posts about a particular stat. That's what we call monthly active users. That means these are the people that come on the platform every month.
Yeah.
The larger that base is, the bigger the platform, the more monetizable the platform is, right? If people don't like the platform, they will start to drop off. And the reason why they don't like the platform is because they don't like the content. Some people have dropped off X because they feel like it's too toxic and things like that, right? So the content that you put on the platform will rank it and say, this content that they put out, would it make people actually want to even just delete the app, right? So if they see that they first, expose your content to the first, let's say, batch of people, let's say it's 20 people, 20, maybe 10% of your followers, and that 10%, 90% of them just scroll over like, what is this nonsense? Something like that. The platform will just take your content and compress and just repress it.
Interesting.
Because people don't like this content. But if 90% of people all of a sudden, and that's why a lot of social media, they've hacked it a bit, right? As soon as you post and say, go and like this post, go and share and all of that, just to, trick the algorithm, say that actually people like it. But what people don't understand is that the algorithm actually selects the percentage of people that it shows it to. So there might be external likes and shares and followers, but the most important is actually those people it shows it to. If you see it on your feed and you don't interact with it, right, you are going to allow that content be repressed.
Interesting.
So it's not about the consistency of posting. It's not about the frequency of posting. It's about the quality of what you're putting out there. That is very, very important.
Wow.
You can put out 4. There's a business that one of my partners in Kenya. In 6 months, they posted only 4 contents, only 4 posts, and I think they got about 30,000 followers.
No,
just 4 posts.
Really?
It wasn't about volume; it was about quality.
Wow!
So this is a very important point for business owners to understand. Every business owner needs to be a content creator. So that's a very important point.
Wow!
Yes.
I mean, the things you're saying are. I never thought about them that way. So what I'm hearing is that it is very important for people to be extremely deliberate about paying for ads, right? And then when they do that, it becomes easier to measure what exactly they're doing.
Absolutely. I think business owners, if you build a business, you need a bit of guarantee.
Yeah.
Right. You might have investors. Yeah. They want an outcome. You have, businesses will typically have, this is my monthly target, my yearly target, things like that.
Yeah.
You can't leverage a strategy that is, only dictated by chance.
Yes.
You need a bit of guarantee.
Absolutely.
Now, you cannot guarantee that people will, buy your product 100%. But you increase that chance of probability by at least exposing them to that content, right? So what you are paying for in terms of paid market is paying for that attention, paying for that exposure. So it's, as a business owner, it's a non-negotiable. If you don't have a paid marketing budget, okay, I don't want to sound funny and say you are joking or something like that, but really maybe you are still testing the waters. You are having an MVP, a minimum viable product. You are still testing waters. So that's fine. But if you really are trying to expand your business, definitely you need to have a paid marketing budget. What you should invest in terms of paid marketing is another question, right?
Yeah.
And it can be exactly dependent on what you want to achieve, right? Okay, I want a turnover, a revenue of 3 million, 5 million, 10 million. You can then walk backwards into what should I be investing. There's something we call ROAS, return on ad spend, which means it's just same thing as ROI, return on investment, right? Which is when I invested $3 or invested $1, what did I get in return? So we've put enough data to see that actually when people invest $1, they get $3 if you're doing it right. So you shouldn't spend $1 and get minus or no. The platform, when you do it right, actually delivers on that investment.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Interesting. What would you say? Because I've heard this very interesting, well, let me just call it a philosophy, right? It's philosophy around when to post, target posts, 11 a.m., 12 a.m., and all of that. And some people have made money from other people telling them when to post. What do you think? What's your perspective about that?
I think timing for posting used to be a thing, maybe I think maybe 2 years ago. Now it's not really that relevant. And I'll explain why. So let's say the thinking makes sense, right? If people are waking up in the morning and they are opening Instagram or Facebook or whatever it is, maybe around, a lot of people do use that their quiet time. The first thing they open is Instagram. A number of people, and to be honest, you might say that's not me. I first thing I do is I pray, I greet my wife and children. We see the data. We see that it's Facebook you first open. But anyway, let's say that people actually, start scrolling. Let's say 9 a.m. Right? They've had their bath. They're maybe at work seated and they just want to see what's happening. Right? Now, the most marketers think that okay, it's best to post at this time, right? When people are actually scrolling. What happens is, if people see your content at that time, right? Okay, yes. But what you are really seeing, what you are really expecting, resultant is that at the end of the day, after 2-3 days, you've reached a substantial amount of your audience, right? In that case, it doesn't matter when you post. It's not a case where, so when Facebook started, there's something called the news feed. That was the first invention before they even deployed an algorithm on it. And the way the news feed, and same thing with X, formerly Twitter, what they used to do then was you would see content based on what time it was posted. So if it was posted early in the morning, by evening, it would be at the bottom. Right now, if you posted in the morning, in the evening, it could be at your top of your feed based on how relevant that content is to your consumption behavior. So it's not about the time you post. Again, the priority is the content, the quality of the content, how relevant it is. Recently, Instagram deployed a feature called your algorithm. Actually, you can actually look at your algorithm, what it sees that you are consuming. Like, for example, when I checked mine this morning, I saw that you're consuming a lot of content from Household of David. I was like, yes, this is correct. This is good. Things on business, leadership. I was like, you know me very well, So it will show you content, even if it was posted 11 a.m., 12 a.m., 1 a.m. As soon as I get on Instagram, that's the content it's going to show me.
I see.
Which makes it relevant what time that content was posted.
I see.
Now, also on the paid ad side of things, we used to have something called day parting, right? Which is, I want my ads to show at, between 6 and 8. Okay. But the reason why we do that is because there are certain businesses that it actually makes sense for them to actually show up at that time. Let's say it's a nightlife. Your target is a nightlife. You don't want to show something that is targeted to nightlife during the day. It will not be relevant, So that is where that is relevant. But aside that, you can post anytime. If you focus on the quality of your content will do well.
Fantastic. I want to ask you a very interesting question, right? I'm a business owner, or I just started a business. So the first thing, of course, I saw the problem. I create an idea, and I'm passionate about solving the problem, which becomes your story.
Yeah.
And I'm very passionate about going online, letting people know what I do. Because, of course, it's cheaper than going to get a billboard and putting my advert there.
Yes.
And I'm trying to decide, should I be on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X? I mean any other thing, YouTube, anything, right? What would you advise this person to look out for in determining where he or she should focus on?
That is a very, very good question. I get this a lot, and I'm happy to unpack it a bit. So I think first off, business owners need to actually take the decision in where do I want to show up first. Now, when you get to a certain level of size, you need to be wherever possible, right?
Yeah.
If you're a not to name drop, but if you're a massive FMCG, you can't say I'm on one platform. No, you have to be everywhere possible.
Yeah.
But if you're a small business, you need to choose because you don't have that level, that bandwidth to be able to manage those multiple surfaces. So in deciding what platform, you need to know that first. If I have a TikTok account and I have a Facebook account and I have an X account, it's still the same me on these three platforms.
Yes.
You have to understand that each platform is not a unique set of, a different set of people. No, it's still the same people, right? What's different is the behavior on the platform.
Okay.
So the way I behave and my disposition on X is different from my behavior and my disposition on Instagram.
Yeah.
And it's different from that on TikTok. So if you want to target me on TikTok, right, maybe that's where you're going to get me. If you're on X and you target me, you might not get me there. You see what I mean? What am I trying to paint? You need to understand your target market, your target audience. What is their behavior, right? So for example, let's say I would never buy a house on TikTok. Let's just give an example. Maybe I would never buy a house on TikTok. I feel like maybe they're trying to scam me. But actually, interesting, I found out that a lot of people actually, do a lot of research on TikTok. Right? I mean, yesterday, guys were telling me that, I found my house. You know how crazy it is to rent a house in Lagos. Someone said, I found my house on TikTok. I was like, wow.
Really?
Someone said, I get all my investment advice on TikTok. I'm like,
wow.
Really? It's really interesting, right? So different platforms have their strength. So if you're in the fashion business, right? If you're in, maybe services like makeup or something like this, you need to know what platform can drive, impact for the target audience I have. Okay, most of my customers rather, are between the ages of 18 to, let's say, 24 or 34, right? I can already tell you that TikTok will do very well for you. You see what I mean? You might say, my users or my customers are much older people, right? Even though they exist on TikTok, they probably will make a decision on Facebook. Because they have more trust in the platform on Facebook to be able to actually, commit, dollar figures or commercially to that platform. You see what I mean? So you need to decide this. You need to look at, first, you need to understand your business, understand your users. Your users are actually very important data points to actually help you extrapolate, what platform you should be, expanding on, essentially.
Interesting. I mean, that's a very powerful one, yeah? Understanding the behaviors of your consumers.
Yes.
Interesting. I'm of the opinion, right, that when you start a business, the first thing you need, and I'm taking for granted that you have a vision, you have a mission, you have the direction you want to go, you're passionate about it and all of that. But the first thing you need are customers, not necessarily an office in that sense. Yeah. Well, I know it also depends on the kind of business, but most businesses, really, you need customers, right? You need people who are going to pay you so that you are not the one sponsoring this business. And the things you're saying are really hinged on how do you position yourself so that your customers will see you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why I find them extremely instructive.
Yes. Yeah.
So, we have a few more minutes. Just as one of the final questions, from all your experience, you've done lots of fantastic things. And of course, your wife is also somebody that I love so much. A wonderful woman, I tell you. Wonderful. Like having conversations with her. From all the things you've done, and I know you guys will talk, so all the things she's done, all the things she's done and all of that. And the businesses you've worked with very massive businesses, You've worked with small businesses. I mean, you've run businesses yourself, and you are running a business yourself. So, what if you were to advise entrepreneurs today, right? Regardless of the size of their business, what kind of mindset would you ask them to adopt if they are going to succeed in the world that we have today?
Wow. That is probably the deepest question today. I have to tell you that mindset is everything in life. And, this is one question I've struggled with because, in working with different people, I keep asking myself if a mindset is a DNA thing, can it be acquired or are you born with it? You see what I mean? Because there are some people you could see the passion, the desire, but they just don't have it. They just don't have it. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's sometimes there are people that they didn't go to the schools that they didn't go to Harvard or go any of this they didn't have such pedigree or anything like that. But the way they operate, you can read it in books.
Yeah.
They've not read those books, but that is where they operate. It's as though like there's an energy somewhere, there's a knowledge base somewhere that powers how they make decisions and things like that, right? I think there's a lot that has to do with where you're born, how you grew up. Those things are very important. That's why for me, like anyone raising children needs to be very, very intentional about the kids, especially when you have a bit of privilege and you didn't come from privilege. There's a potential to take away that thing that actually made you, that created your makeup that allows you to be, have such grit to be able to push through certain things. One mindset, one pillar that is very important to me is being solutions oriented. I find a lot of people, even in very high places of power and authority and business, to be more complacent. They know how to complain. They know how to present the problems, but they never look for the solutions. They present the problems, but they never look for the solutions. This is one key mindset that I think unlocks many keys, right? Is that you have to look at the end. How do I solve this problem? Right? You can't present a solution, a problem without thinking of a solution. Your solution might not be the best, but you need to think of a solution. The same thing, people think about Nigeria and they might say, you know what? This country is so terrible. But you never thought about the angles of, okay, this is a population, this is a booming population, a youthful population. If you look at that, this is a mass market. I can scale here. If I can get $1, right? In fact, if I can get 1 naira from every Nigerian, I will have 200 million naira. So the question is, how do I get 1 naira from every Nigerian? You see what I mean? And it's the economics of scale. If I can make that 1 naira, 1,000 naira, that's road to being a billionaire. Right? So people don't see the fact that the opportunity is in the size of the market, not just the size, the growing exponential growth that the market is experiencing. There was a time when we were 40 million people, there was a time we were 50 million. Now we're over 200 million. And now they're, they're positing that by 2030, right, it's going to be, and we're actually being considered to be one of the biggest economies globally by 2050 and 2070 and things like that, top 3 and all of that. Currently, we're actually one of the fastest growing in terms of population growth and all of that in the world. Top 3 as well, behind India and the likes. See, being solutions oriented is one thing business owners must have. Solutioning for your customers, right? Some people can complain and say, my customers, they are like, how do you complain about your customers? They are customers. They are there to give you problems. They are there to solve their problems. You see what I mean? I think this is one thing I'll point out. If business owners can imbibe this mindset, if they can teach themselves this mindset, I think they will do well in anything that they put their hands on in the business space.
Fantastic. Wow. Wow. And as you were speaking, I was remembering all my consulting life, my consulting days, even though I do a bit of that now too. And, just remembering customers and clients that you sit in front of and they are complaining. I wonder and saying, guys, if these problems never existed, you won't be in business, right? Right? Fantastic. Okay. So, thank you so much. Can you tell us, Final question. Final question. Is there anything that you feel entrepreneurs, business owners should hear that maybe we've not said in the course of our conversation? We're definitely going to bring you back, but yeah, just felt I should mention that. But,
Thank you.
But is there anything that you feel business owners should hear that maybe we've not spoken about and you want them to hear today?
Very, very, very. I think what I've not probably doubled down on is, and I think a lot of my colleagues always ask me this question. They say, JD, the way you execute, and this is with all sense of humility, right? The way you execute, what school did you go to? So I tell them I went to University of Ibadan. I was like, where is that? Is that in California? No, I said, it's University of Ibadan. Ibadan is in Oyo State in Nigeria. Like, oh, really? I said, yeah. It's like, so how did you learn these things? Where did you, and I tell them, I say it's my faith.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There is nothing as important as that.
Yes.
Right. That is what powers everything that I am.
Absolutely.
Right. And where I'm going, where God is taking me. Right.
Yeah.
It like I mentioned, it informs your belief system. Right. Because sometimes I worry. I'm like, when I look at some of my bosses that are probably not saved, when we go through tough times, I wonder how they push through. Because for me, it's super easy. I go into His presence. He lifts the burden. I'm back.
I feel you.
It gives me direction.
Wow.
I don't feel like I'm alone. I don't feel like my back is against the wall. If my back feels against me, I'm like, well, it's not really my business. It's your business, right?
Yeah.
So I feel that, I have that strong backing.
Yeah.
There's a spirit of wisdom that allows you to know what to do part-time, what area to go. You see what I mean? Where to invest your time, what to prioritize. There are people that I've worked with that have been extremely terrible people. Right? But the spirit of discernment to know this person is just telling you face value, just telling you be careful of this person, how to deal with person, workplace dynamics, things like that.
Fantastic.
There is nothing that the business owner needs more than God.
Wow.
All the things I've said,
Wow.
God can teach you. Yes. Trust me.
Wow.
In fact, there's an anointing to spread that I don't want. There's even dimension that you can actually post something. Yeah. So this might even nullify everything I've said. You can post something, right, and post it by 9 a.m. In fact, you post it by 4 a.m. when everyone is asleep, and you wake up in the morning, you see 20 million views. Because there's a system, that can push things, that can make things to spread. So every business owner that is a believer that is not leveraging it, because you can also not leverage it. You can walk in your flesh and walk in your own might. All right. Please leverage it. If you are a believer and you're not a believer, you are missing out really big. You can try in your own effort, you might win. There are a lot of billionaires that are not believers, but it's such an advantage you're missing out on. You don't have to go through life. You don't have to be a billionaire and lose your happiness and your joy. That's one of the things that Scripture guarantees us, is that it gives us wealth with joy. You see what I mean? There's no sorrow added to it. So that's the piece. It's not that you can't make money out. You can make money, but man, I think Elon posted recently. I don't know if he was being sarcastic. He said, whoever said that money doesn't buy happiness, they must have been correct. And recently he soared I think 800 billion, something like that, in net worth, right? He's dwarfs the next guy, which I think Sergey Brin. So if you came on next and said, whoever said this, they were really correct. you can tell that it makes a difference to partner with God.
Fantastic. Wow. Guys, you can see why I said he's my brother. Wow. I mean, what a way to end. He started by saying believer, scientist.
Yes.
Then you ended, after telling us all the science, you ended with the believer. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Really good having you on the program. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time. I want to say thank you for joining our broadcast today. Of course, you'll find our various platforms that you can join us, subscribe, be a part of what we're doing at BLM. I mean, it's always remarkable coming to you on the 1st of every single month. I trust that I would see you again on the 1st of April, right, with another episode, and you will be tremendously helped to make sure your business goes to another level. See you next time. Thank you.